Okay, well, good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Vale of Whitehorse's Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Max Thompson and I'll be chairing this meeting. This meeting is being held at our office in Abbey House, Abingdon. Voting members are here in person as required, but officers and public speakers are able to join remotely if they wish through Microsoft Teams. The meeting is also being streamed live on the Council's YouTube channel for public viewing. I have 5 housekeeping announcements. Firstly, for those joining remotely, when you're not speaking, please ensure you have your microphone muted and your camera off. If you share a presentation on the screen, please stop sharing as soon as it's no longer needed. Public speakers must only have their cameras on and be unmuted when addressing the committee or answering questions of clarification in their designated slots. Number 2, evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the building by the nearest exit, which is in the corridor immediately to the right of the room, of the meeting room, and please go outside and stand at the 70.9 in the outside area. On arriving at this meeting, you should have read the emergency evacuation procedure and signed the fire register, so please inform Democratic Services if you have not. Thirdly, mobile phones, please off or on silent. Fourth, members of the public who wish to leave the meeting after the application they're concerned about has been debated, you're very welcome to do so, but please do so quietly. And then finally, when the meeting has ended, I'll ask for confirmation the live stream has ended. At that point, please make your way out of the building, remembering to sign out as you leave. Final point, this is a meeting in public, not a public meeting. And I ask that members of the public, both those attending here in person and those virtually, ensure you do not shout out or disrupt the committee's deliberations outside of those who've registered to speak in their allocated slots. And just quickly, before we move on to item 2, I received a note today from John Rawling, a Chief Planning Officer here at the Vale of Whitehorse until 2005, informing me that on April the 8th, it will be 50 years since this committee first met. And I just want to thank him for his words about the importance of this committee. He described it as the most visible democratic interface between local government and the populace. And I concur with him in wishing this committee well for the next 50 years. So thank you very much for your kind words. And with that, we now move to item 2. Item 2 is apologies for absence. Emily Barry, do we have any apologies this evening?
We do, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Scott Horton, who has substituted for Councillor Robert Clegg this evening, and from Councillor Mike Pighills, who has substituted for Councillor Amos Devine this evening.
Thank you very much. And would you mind taking a roll call?
Absolutely, Chair. Councillor Ron Blackstone.
Present.
Councillor Cheryl Briggs. Present. Councillor Robert Clegg.
Present.
Councillor Amos Devine.
Present.
Councillor Jenny Hannaby. Present. Councillor Robert Madison.
Present.
Councillor Jill Rayner. Present. Councillor Max Thompson.
Present.
And Councillor VOWH Shaw. Present. Thank you.
Very good. I now turn to minutes of the meeting of the 6th of March 2024. Assuming we're happy with these, can I have a motion on these? Councillor Hannaby.
We accept the minutes.
Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Madison. Excellent. All those in favour of accepting them as the correct record? Those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. I now move on to declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest evening? Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm the ward member for Fitzharris, which is the second item on the agenda. So I'll be standing down for that item.
Thank you very much. Any others? Councillor Batstone.
Yes, I was on a demonstration against Cicero several weeks ago, so it could be perceived that I have a conflict of interest here, so I'll stand down for the first item.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Clegg.
Similar to Councillor Madison, I believe the second item, the LV store, just slightly encroaches on my ward, and therefore I need to step down.
It's a matter of meters, but yes, thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, very good. Thank you. Urgent business evening. Adrian, do we have any urgent business?
None, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. In public participation, I confirm that we have a number of speakers on both of the items we'll be considering this evening. In addition, committee received 2 statements which were circulated and we may make reference to in our debate or our questioning. Thank you very much. Right, and with that, Kathy, we go to Land of South Honey Road, Cow Common. Thank you very much.
Just trying to share the screen.
Very good. We can see that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
This application comes to Planning Committee at the request of the ward member.
Speaker.
Sorry.
Could you speak up a bit? I'm sorry. Okay.
So I'll start again. This application comes to Planning Committee at the request of the ward member. The application is seeking temporary permission for engineering works to carry out a clay compaction trial on land to the south of Honey Road, Steventon. Steventon is over here and East Hanny is over here. Results from the trial will inform design work of the Southeast Strategic Reservoir option, CESRO, a new storage water reservoir proposed by Thames Water. The site is located to the west of Steventon, between Steventon and East Hanny and off the Hanny Road. And the application does not consider the wider reservoir proposal, as that will be a nationally significant infrastructure project, an NSIP, to be considered separately under the Planning Act 2008 NSIP regime. The application is solely seeking temporary permission for these preliminary trial works. Since writing the report, there are 2 updates. We have received one further letter of objection from a resident raising concerns regarding the reservoir proposal. And there is also an update from the county archaeologist who's confirmed that they have responded to the applicant's archaeological report. The county archaeologist advises that the evaluation has recorded a number of archaeological features to the southeast of the site. I'll just bring up the site for members to see. And the southeast is this part here. And these features include pits and ditches dating back to the Roman period. Now, these deposits would not be affected by the main areas of the trial works, but could be damaged by vehicle movements and associated smaller works during the trial operations. So as such, it's requested that a further condition is imposed on any consent given to ensure archaeological remains are preserved during the trial through the use of protective fencing. So now I'll go through the plans. This is the site area. It's relatively flat and in agricultural use. The site is not subject to any landscape or ecology designations, and there are no designated heritage assets nearby. Most of the site, this area, is in flood zone 1, save for a small strip of land down here that connects to the Cow Common Brook, which is in flood zone 3. And there is an existing public right-of-way, bridleway, that runs along the northwest boundary here. So the proposal is seeking permission for a period of up to 12 months to undertake the trial, which will include compaction trials, a borrow pit, removal of topsoil, and topsoil storage around the perimeter. So topsoil will be removed from the site and created a bund around the perimeter of the site. There'll be storage of clay material in this part of the site. The borrow pit, which will be excavated, is in this area. And then there's 3 trial areas to look at the compaction of the clay. The compound will be towards the frontage, but there, as I said earlier, there will be a mound on the very frontage of the site. There'll also be the access from Hanny Road that will come in here and Hall roads around the site. And as I mentioned earlier, this part of the site is where the archaeology lies, and that will be subject to protective fencing. And this plan shows it perhaps a little bit more clearly, those areas that I was talking about. There'll also be water storage and treatment areas on the site before it's discharged to the brook, which I mentioned earlier, and they could be in this area and this area here. At the end of the temporary period, which is expected to be 12 months, the site would be returned to agricultural use. This is a section of the plan of what the trial area, the borrow pit, will entail. And then there's sections here showing the indicative heights of the stockpiles, and the maximum height, which will be in the centre of the site, would be 5.5 metres. Here are some photos taken from the perimeter of the development, and these are taken from the landscape and visual assessment, highlighting various points that are located in relation to the site. So there's the Honey Bottom Kennels and the farmhouse here, see the road, and the site will be in here. Bridleway is shown here, go along the northwest of the site. Photos here, sorry. So you can see it is relatively flat and in agricultural use. So this is back to the plan. And the principle of development is considered acceptable for the reasons outlined in the report, and there are no technical objections to withhold permission for this. The land will be restored to agricultural use upon the end of the period, which is 12 months. And there's no adverse impacts in terms of heritage assets, landscape or biodiversity. And the drainage scheme can be delivered and mitigated through conditions. So finally, I'm just going to read the condition that is being suggested. It is added to the commission. No development shall commence until the area of archaeological interest identified by the archaeological evaluation as detailed in the Wessex Archaeology Evaluation Report dated March 2024 has been secured through protective fencing to avoid any impact during construction. The fencing shall remain in place until the completion of the trial and the restoration of the site. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathy. I will return to you for some questions once we've heard from our speakers on this application. Excellent. Right, our first speaker is Mark Beddoe, who is speaking in objection to this application. Please, Mr. Beddoe. And Councillor Andy Cook, I believe, is also registered on this as an objector. You'll have 3 minutes between you in which to speak on this application, but committee may ask some questions of clarification once we've heard from both of you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Please, and when you're ready. Oh, by the way, 1.5 minutes, there'll be a bleep going off, and then there'll be a further bleep at when there's half a minute to go. Mr. Meadows, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Meadows, sorry, thank you very much for joining us. Apologies.
If you sift through the 18 supporting documents for this application, you will find the preliminary clay compaction trial, subtitled Geo-Environmental Risk Assessment. Sift further and you will find item 1.5 objectives. This is confined to 3.5 lines of what I describe as plan. There is no detail of any specific measurement objective, for example, clay viscosity, water content, or permeability. At an East Hendon Parish Council meeting with Thames Water, TW stated that they did not intend to publish any results from the trial. This is not surprising if there are no measurable objectives. GARD are of the opinion that this trial has no scientific merit. If this is so, this is simply a publicity event for Thames Water shareholders and interested bystanders. The Vale District Council has stated an aim of 75% reduction of CO2 emissions by 2025. If this committee supports this aim, then allowing this vacuous evacuation application contradicts the Vale policy. If this Vale planning committee does not take emissions reduction seriously, there is no reason why anybody else should.
You have 90 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will come back to you for some questions of clarification in a second. Councillor Andy Cook, I believe you're here as well. You also have 90 seconds when you're ready.
Okay, thanks. I actually, my objection is very similar to the previous speakers, but I'd like to phrase it slightly differently. My objection is that this proposal, assuming it's not just a pro forma box ticking exercise, is way too small. It's too limited, too narrow, arguably too late. I'm sick of hearing that geophysical flooding and dam break issues that it's very early yet when they've been pushing it for a quarter of a century now. The latest preliminary design report work is dated 2007, when they considered the trial should be built to at least 20 metres. I do think we need it on record that given the proposed gargantuan scale of the Cesaro mega project, a single small dig down the Hannay Road isn't going to cut the mustard. It'll barely cut the clay. It's like taking soil samples and soil quality at the marina in Abingdon and using that as the requirements for the housing from there to Tesco's, Kingsgate, Tilsley Park and Radley Reach.
You have 30 seconds.
The poor pressure dissipation won't complete in time, but that's okay. 3 meters height will be nowhere near enough to get those details. And yes, it'll be hugely disruptive, but with all due apologies to the issues caused, if we want this to be anything more than pro forma, we may want to consider allowing for an extension past 12 months and to allow them to build up beyond 3 meters, which is painful, but would get useful real data rather than just be a box ticking exercise, because there is way too much actual to find out for data, and this isn't going to give anything useful.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cook. We've gone to our 3 minutes, but there may be some questions or clarifications for either you or for Mr. Beddoes. So does anyone on the committee have any questions of clarification for either? I can't see any, so I'll say thank you both for your statements here this evening, and I'll move on to our next speaker, which is Mr. Mark Matthews. Please, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to have Harry, our planning consultant, with me as well to answer any questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, so please speak up. But I guess I'm happy for him to answer questions, but not speak in the 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. It'll be just me. Okay. Thank you, Chair. The clay compaction trial subject to this planning application would assist with the understanding of the reservoir design. Clay compaction trials help detailed design and construction of reservoirs for which the behaviour of the clay needs to be understood. In this case, it will help inform the design of the reservoir embankments. The trial has been endorsed and reviewed by an independent reservoir advisory panel, and this is the basis of the trial. Geological maps, previous ground investigations, surveys and observations, and computer models show that the bedrock, kimmeridge and gold clay are highly suitable for a potential reservoir. Critically, however, at this stage, we don't know in detail what the strength and water content of the actual clay at the site will be when it's compacted. And this is the reason why we're doing the trial. The information from the trial will help determine key features, such as the width of the embankments and hence the amount of excavation to build the reservoir. Ultimately, the information from the trial will help everyone interested in the project, including the local community, who, when we're out engaging with them, want to know more details about the design of the reservoir, including the embankments. We will share our findings with the public, and we're also happy to provide site visits to the trial embankments for the local community to see our work in action. The proposed development itself is the excavation of a small borrow pit, creating 3 small trial embankments above existing ground level. Those clay properties will then be measured. To access the clays, a larger amount of topsoil and subsoil will be excavated, and the temporary storage of this will form part of the screening bunds around the edge of the site. We anticipate that borrow pit will be open for no more than 6 months, but the weather may affect that, hence why we're seeking a temporary permission for a 12-month period. We're hoping to the work to take place in May through to October. And on completion of the trial, the excavated material will be placed back to its original layers of strata. The topsoil, stored carefully to prevent damage, will be replaced last to enable the site to quickly return to its current agricultural use. As the case officer said, extensive studies have been undertaken for the planning application, including on ecology, archaeology, drainage, landscape and access. And our team has engaged with all the statutory consultees and the public, and there have been no significant objections from the public and no statutory objections either.
You have 30 seconds.
This application is for a standalone temporary activity for 12 months. It's not for any wider reservoir works. Granting permission will not prejudice the Vale of White Horses Council's position on the reservoir or its response to the Water Resources Management Plan. So we urge you to follow the officer's professional recommendation of approval for this temporary development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, I'll ask if anyone's got any questions. Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question of clarification. We heard from Mr. Beddoes, who just spoke, that he understood that Thames Water didn't intend to publish any results of the trial. I think you mentioned in your speech just now that the results would be published.
That is correct. We're happy to publish them. We will be publishing them after the trial. We'll be sharing that information with the public widely. We'll also offer 2 site visits as well for the public during the actual trial period.
Councillor Briggs.
Actually, I've got a couple of questions. How are you going to prevent silt going from the trial site into Cowbrook Common?
Yeah, so we'll have a silt buster on site, which will ensure that silt doesn't get into the Cow Common. and also like a little treatment area as well on the site.
Thank you. And I'm interested to find out where the comments about the effects on birds and insects actually come from. I don't know whether that's you or whether I should ask the officer.
There should be no impact on biodiversity, no impact on birds around an agricultural field area.
Where did that information come
Okay, we did a biodiversity report and we had people going around the site, our biodiversity experts. Check the box.
Councillor Hanby.
Well, I do apologise, everybody. I'm really struggling with a head cold and I can't hear it. Presumably you talked about wheel wash, did you?
We haven't spoken about wheel washing yet, so
Good. I'm really, this is a new application. We're looking at it with the new eyes. Whatever's going on around, we're looking at this today and speaking to this. So I won't make too much comment, but on the statutory people that have actually agreed on this. I think we really should say that all the consultees, again, I look at them and we have no feedback or kickback from them. But I am concerned about the lorry situation. I'm always amazed at Highways optimism about what's going to go on the roads and what's not. But those of us that live here in this area, I'm taking on board what the residents that's nearest you working, what they're saying. And that is hours, maybe 8 till 5. And if you have to work Saturdays, only mornings. I think that is what I would be probably saying, because that's the normal that builders, etc., you usually do, and it's more acceptable, I think, on that. That's that. And then you say you're going to use some of the you're going to put it round in buns, is that correct? On site, spread it around on site?
For the temporary period, that's correct.
So these 60 movements of lorries, will you be taking a lot off site as well?
No. So that will be the 60 lorries that we're looking to do which is during the first sort of 4 weeks or so. That's to bring in the plant and machinery to do the work.
So that's really what I was trying to get at, because mud on the roads and things like this, you know, you can have it in this, not so much in the summer, but we do suffer terribly from mud on the roads from the other developments and everything around, etc. So if we can get those times and listen to what the residents that have got to put up with this for a year, it may be more, long time, then I would be content on that. I don't think I want to get in onto areas that I really I haven't got the knowledge of. So it's no good me asking you those. Others are brighter than me in that area. But you will be sharing your report, presumably,
Definitely.
to all and sundry, and then we could perhaps ask questions on that.
Councillor Devine.
Just thinking about working hours, to follow on from Jenny's point, it seems to me that you're expecting to have quite a lot of activity at the start and end of the project. Is there much expectation of activity for the main part of it?
No, once we've got the embankments up, then it's a case of testing the clay, taking measurements to see.
So there's no big movements of lorries for the most part. Okay. So in terms of working hours and things like that, that will largely be away from the public, apart from obviously at the start and end of the project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think just to clarify as well, there is a conditional hours of operation here. And the hours of operation that are proposed in this are 7:30 till 6, Monday to Friday, and then permission from 8 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock on Saturday. No time on Sunday or public holidays. I just want to clarify because we may wish to discuss this further. Any further questions? Councillor Clegg.
Thank you, Chair. I believe in an earlier discussion around this proposal, there may have been a briefing last summer.
June, yeah, I wasn't there myself, but my previous colleague was.
I raised a question because then the proposal was that the trial would run for 3 years, or at least you'd be seeking permission for 3 years, just in case the weather was very damp during the summer and you needed to continue into next year and so on. And yet this proposal is for 12 months. So either you know something about the weather this summer, we don't, or something's changed. Could you please clarify?
Yeah, from our assessment and in the way we discussed it with our reservoir experts and including the advisory panel, we feel that we can actually get that work done in between May and October. It might need to extend a little bit longer. That's why we've gone for the 12-month period. But this trial goes hand in hand with other works that we're doing. So ground investigations, boreholes that are gone in the local area as well, just to test what the clay levels are, the difference in clay, and then we can just take that back to our labs and test it in those conditions. So it's a package of measures that we're doing. This clay compaction trial forms part of that.
I have a follow-up question on something Councillor Briggs said earlier about the silt in Cowcommon Brook. So a silt buster, you described it as. So I don't actually know what that is. So I don't know if you are familiar with how that operates. And I guess I'd be mainly curious to know, how are we going to monitor that it's working effectively? So what's the proposal in place to monitor how that silt buster, as you say, is actually ensuring that?
Yeah, we'll have experts on site to make sure that that silt is coming out and being stored. And there is a condition on there, a planning condition on there in terms of submission of a water management plan that reflects that.
Thank you. Councillor Briggs.
Yeah, you've said that it's not going to have an impact on agricultural land. How can you guarantee that? Because surely if you're disrupting the land, then it's going to have some impact.
So obviously the temporary period will be on that field, but then we will turn that land back to an agricultural use. So we've agreed that with the tenant farmer. This is a bit of land that's owned by Thames Water, but it's tenanted to a farm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Chair. We heard Councillor Cook's opinion earlier when he was speaking that the scale of the trial was too small given the scale of the proposed reservoir. I'd just be curious to hear your point of view on that.
Yeah, we will need to do further work in due course. A much bigger trial will need to take place, but we haven't got a date for that yet. But that was likely to be in current time. We need to do this trial now. It helps with the initial design work, and people are asking questions quite naturally from the public, and they want that understanding, and we want to help them with that.
I can't see any further questions, so I'll say. Don't believe we can see any, so I'll say thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
I now turn to our final speaker on this application, Councillor Sally Pawlowski. Councillor Pawlowski, you there?
I am.
Excellent. We
Okay.
can see you and we can hear you, and you have 3 minutes when you're ready.
All right, let's go. So thank you for granting my request to call this in. I don't think I need to tell you how important all proposals from Thames Water are and how they should all be in the public domain. So thanks for listening. It will come as no surprise I'm here to speak. CESRO scheme is an utter shambles, and multiple consultations have shown the public outcry. Thames Water's failures and track record, which were once again in the local news tonight, are befitting. This trial has already been baked into the Thames Water Resource Management Plan. There has been no significant objections because the local public feel like everything to do with CESRO is a sham and a golden handshake that's happened somewhere in government corridors. Equally, the community of Steventon has been clearing up from the major flooding we've had in January. And note committee, the Thames Water still haven't responded to the sewage and drainage spills into people's homes and streets. So I'm here to ask you the following, if you are minded to approve. The Hanley Road towards East Hanley and Steventon is already blighted with a huge number of HGV vehicle movements. The current investigations at site have already caused issues with local householders and the local kennels business. I would like vehicle movements to be restricted to non-peak hours, and all vehicle movements whilst Steventon Lights works are undergoing, which start in 2 months' time, are only to the A338. Again, not ideal. One of my requests is that ANPR is set up and paid for by Thames Water to ensure directions of traffic in and out of the site to the highways deemed routing. Operating hours of vehicle movements on site to be either 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. or after 9:30 a.m. to cap off at 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, with no weekend working, to ease local congestion and impacts outside rush hours. The permit is for 12 months. From the date of approval, any extensions are reapplied for accordingly. It says commencement within 3 years, but I would ask for this to be changed to 6 months of granting permission, if that's what you decide. Section 5.26 has just been discussed around archaeology. Maybe we should ask what the Romans did for us, because they definitely managed water better. But please put in conditions recommended by the county archaeologist. No bat or newt surveys have been done, and if they have, we haven't seen the evidence of those surveys. There is definitely bats in the local area. Otters are back in the locality, and I can't see any survey on them. Let's remember this is an area of nature recovery. Whilst temporary, there will be an impact, and I see no mitigation. There is no measurable objectives in this scheme. Thames Water have stated transparency, which I welcome, and I hope they will follow up with me separately. There is no carbon offset scheme stated in this application. Air quality, there's no considerations for particulate matter 2.5 or 10. It's good to hear about the water treatment before the water returns to Ginge Brook. But do note, committee, that today Letcombe Brook is so full of sewage from releases, it's literally floating through people's gardens, which I know you know is a chalk stream. Maybe we can get a poo buster. Maybe Thames Water have one of those. Hopefully you will consider my comments, and whilst I have the floor, can I please state publicly that this compaction trial, in my opinion, is a tick box exercise, and the data will not provide assurances to my residents, given the proposed 25-metre bunds over the 3-metre bunds. Thames Water have this earmarked for decades, and the fact that this has never been done is beyond belief. You have no clue about your primary building material, which makes this site of interest. I can't believe the site of interest has never been tested for its construction function. So hopefully you will have a think about those restrictions above for conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pawlowski. Right, I'll now ask if any members of the committee have any questions of clarification for you. Any questions? I can't see any, so I'll say thank you very much for joining us this evening, Councillor Pawlowski. And now we'll move on to questions for our officer. Right, does anyone on the committee have any questions for our officer? Councillor Hannaby.
Yeah, I'm going back to really the residents and the disruption that will be caused on the roads by lorries and etc. So I would like to just put forward again that we listen to the residents and think most of it's summer months. So if you could start at 8 and finish at 5, at least from 5 onwards, they won't have a lot of noise and disruption if they want to go in their gardens and etc. Because I think that that would probably be acceptable. And if they have to work at weekends, although I hope not, but it's usual, that it's just restricted to Saturday morning, and that there's strict adherence to the traffic plan for any mud on the roads, because it really is a dangerous narrow road, and that is a blight to us. And we've had to fight very hard to get everybody to look after traffic management.
Okay. I don't know if that's a question or a statement, but
I'm well, look at that. I'm asking that can that be put in, or are obviously the rest of my committee on board, because that is what this is all about, a democracy.
Yes.
Not Jenny said.
Sorry.
As been noted already, there is a condition on hours of operation: 7:30 till 6 o'clock Monday to Friday, and 8 to 1 o'clock Saturday. And I hear that you're proposing a sort of a restriction that starts later, finishes earlier on the Monday to Friday. The issue with that is the works will take longer because
so if you could say, Chair,
so sorry, I'm not sure.
You shout at me, Chair. Tell me what she just said.
So if you finish your point, then I will reiterate.
So I repeated what the condition is currently saying, and you're seeking a restricted time scale.
I'm listening to the residents' comments. Objection.
Yes. So all I want to say in terms, want to make the comment to the committee that if the time period for bringing the HGVs in for the first 4 weeks that's anticipated at the moment, if that time is squeezed, then the works could take longer than 4 weeks. That's really what I'm saying.
So I'll just reiterate the point that Kathy has made, which is that yes, we can consider whether to further restrict the hours of operation. At the moment, the condition says 7:30 till 6. If we did consider that restriction, though, potentially the works may in fact take longer, and it might cause greater disruption. Was the point made by Kathy?
I'm just thinking of my residents when Persimmon was doing that, and they didn't stick to it. They got earlier and earlier, and later and later. So I just put that forward, just so that my residents know someone on the committee is listening.
Understood. Councillor Rain.
It's following on a little bit from what Councillor Hannaby said and Councillor Pawlowski as far as time is concerned. My issue is, of course, the residents, but the amount of problems that's going to cause traffic-wise at peak hours. I reiterate what Sally said regarding the 6:30 to 7:30, because if we can get the HGVs there before the traffic, it might be a little bit more bearable. If it's just for a month, then that is going to stop during the school holidays anyhow. So I don't know if there's any way to restrict this or change this so that, you know, when the huge traffic numbers are coming earlier on in the